Where's that even coming from? I don't know. Oh, it's all the way over there. That's what it is. So I need to come back this way. Because that's what I got to do. Okay, well, that's what I'll do. Hey, Vicky, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay,
Yes.
do I get introduced or how does this work if I'm supposed to start about now?
Yeah, you can introduce yourself and you can start. Yeah.
Okay. All right. There we go. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Honored to be with you today. Thank you for tuning in. And before I go any further, let me just extend my prayers and a heartfelt, energetic, positive feels to all those affected by the hurricane. Earth changes have been predicted. They are happening, and it's beyond my subject to talk about what's going on out there, but we will focus on how we can use the healing powers of sound and music to assist us in maintaining balance, in having more resilience, and keeping ourselves literally in tune to weather all these storms and continue moving forward. Right. So some of you know me already, some of you do not. I've been working in the field of sound healing before it was a field in modern days, but I would also remind us that the tradition of healing sounds and healing music and healing with music and chants and sounds and vibrations in the audible spectrum have been around for thousands of years. I've had a chance to record inside the Great Pyramid, where the sound and the reverb is really extraordinary. There's an album called Initiation, Inside the Great Pyramid. It's clear now, if you've been watching Ancient Aliens and some of the other programs, that many of the great structures in the ancient world were tuned in a way to enhance the vitality of our human instrument, of our body, mind, and spirit, and to heighten our coherence of our two hemispheres of the brain. This is only now being rediscovered. In fact, it is so powerful and there's so little information that I'll just mention that, and you can visit my website to read more about some of the things. You could check in, of course, with Ancient Aliens and learn about some of the frequencies in some of these other statues and rooms, sacred rooms around the world. But what I've done over the years has been, in a sense, to take that reality, bring it into the studio, and recreate modern soundtracks that work to tune us into these ancient spiritual precepts. So although it's a long name, spiritual sound healing is the name that I've been working with to encompass not just the physical, but now we're understanding that the healing powers of sound are more than just physical. And we've yet to uncover a whole lot of the things that we will be learning, and some of us have learned, but are not really public yet. There's another problem is in that back in February, the FDA, as they've done with many other things, with the labels that are on vitamin bottles and herbal supplements, have to be very careful in the wording that they use. So I will try to be as careful in the wording that I use so that I will not have a repeat of what happened some years ago when a certain individual claimed that this album, my best-selling and original Chakra Suite, because it affects also our human instrument and tunes the chakras, could be misinterpreted as a medical device. And I remember when I heard that, I said, well, you know, I get into a relaxed meditative state when I look at a beautiful sunset, or when I'm on a non-hurricane beach in Florida and watching the waves and getting hypnotized by that frequency. And I asked, how come you don't, to the FDA, how come you don't bust the sun? And they said, well, the sun doesn't make any claims on the back of the album that talks about the benefits of listening to music like this and other albums. So there's a great deal of unknowns right now. So we just prefer to talk about resilience and the facts that people have been doing this for thousands of years, long before any government got involved in saying what you can and cannot say. I was also the first person to do research on how sound affects the chakras in a laboratory with brainwave biofeedback and Kirlian photography, which is a way that we can image the electromagnetic fields around our physical body. The benefit of this is that it happens automatically. So let me give you just a very quick example of how powerfully we are connected to the world of sound. If I were in person with you right now, I'd be doing some of the same thing and asking you to feel your pulse or feel your heartbeat and watch what happens when I sing a certain pattern, and then I will tap out a certain rhythm, and you can watch what happens in your body. Okay, so first I'll do the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti. And how many of you are holding your breath right now? How many of you can feel that in your chest as you perhaps were waiting for that last note, or you heard that note in your head and maybe sang it out at home if you're watching, or maybe in the room, because you know that that melodic phrase is supposed to end with the octave of do. But that's because we've been culturally conditioned to anticipate where the music is going. The problem with that when it comes to meditation or relaxation is that you are always projecting into the future rather than being in the moment. When I began, we didn't have the popular concept of mindfulness, of being in touch, at peace in the present moment. You're not projecting into the future. My music has been mindful because that's the state that I get into when I'm in the studio recording. I never know where the music is going. I can't remember what I just did 20 seconds ago, but I listen and I tap into the quantum field. I listen to the space between the notes. That was always something that I just became able to do after I was initiated almost on this month, but it was November 1969 when I had a deep experience inside a sacred redwood grove outside of California, Santa Cruz, California, where I started hearing this new music. And I didn't know where it came from, but I just said, thank you very much. And when I started playing it for people, they said, wow, that helps us feel so peaceful. It helps us feel so relaxed. I want to meditate with that. Where can I get an album? Where can I get a tape? And that was the beginning of what wound up motivating me to find a studio, an independent studio that I didn't have to be signed up with a major label because they were not interested in music like this at that point, to begin to bring the music out to the public. And as you know, very quickly, I ran into opposition from the media and from critics who said, we don't think this qualifies as music. Where's the melody? Where's the beat? Where are the words? And I pointed out that 2/3 of the world's music traditions don't have all those things. Buddhist music, and certainly the Alap portions of Indian raga music don't have rhythm, don't have a beat. That comes later. Well, as we deal with that, let's just talk about the beat. There are a couple quick topics I'll just touch on. One of them is what we just dealt with, is the melodic imperative, the fact that we've been conditioned to anticipate where the music is going, which is fine for most music, but not so fine if you want to get into a meditative state. For me, I always found it so distracting that I would always include mention of this in my workshops, and I didn't realize for years how important the breakthrough that was to understand that the basic structure of Western music is designed to keep you out of a meditative state, designed to keep your body from manifesting its own innate healing energies. And that's really what we're talking about today, how to assist your body to heal itself, how to work in that context where what is natural manifests rather than what gets in the way. Okay, so we've dealt with melodic imperialism. I have a YouTube video that you should check out if you're interested, called Scalus Interruptus, the Scalus Interruptus phenomenon, because when you have a scale and you interrupt this, it kind of relates to another thing that we know about interruptus. And we'd like to just continue and be in the moment. Now, there's a concept of rhythm entrainment. And what happens when there's a rhythm? Well, the rhythm takes over, manipulates, and forces your heartbeat and your pulse to follow the external rhythm. This is part of the definition of rhythm entrainment. So if you could feel your heartbeat or feel your pulse right now, notice what happens as I begin to tap my hands faster. Very quickly, because of the frequency following effect, your heartbeat and your pulse should be speeding up. And if they're not, you can see me after the workshop. But that's how powerfully tied in we are to our environment that most people never consider. And certainly the advertisers and the music that's on the radio and playlists now, most of it is designed to keep you focusing on the music external to you rather than on your own internal realities. Well, even as a kid, I was very much not into not being manipulated or controlled by other people, whether it was my parents or the music I was listening to. So it's, in a sense, it's not surprising that I became the person to help birth this concept out into the world. Now, again, it's not a new concept. Many of you know about crystal bowls, which are dangerous to have on a Zoom, but even, of course, the ancient Tibetan bowls, if we just strike it and you listen carefully to the wah, 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 wah sound, the vibrato, that is basically in the frequencies of the deep alpha and deep theta brainwave states, between 8 and 12 cycles per second for alpha, and between 4, and 7 for theta. So let's just listen a second. Just notice that there's probably not going to be high definition. And this tradition, this is why instruments like this have been used throughout the East, and even Western church bells have a tonal phenomenon that engages your biology and your mental aspects in a different way. One of my big lessons on this was in 1971 when Alan Watts spoke to my graduate class in San Francisco, and he had a big Japanese bowl, and he hit it, and it was great, and it was resonant. And he did it again, and by the third time, I'm going, okay, well, do something different. I didn't say it out loud, but he saw me in the crowd and looked at me and said, some of you apparently do not know how to listen to a meditative bowl. So listen to the furthest away sound as the echoes continue to fade away. That was a life-changing moment for me. It changed me from a very left-brain, analytical, jazz-trained, improvising musician to being able to be in the moment, to being comfortable, not leaning forward, not projecting into the future, not remembering the past, just totally being with the sound. And if you have bowls at home, even 5 minutes a day, be fun. And for those of you who are really type A and adult ADHD, even 1 minute can help reset your physiology, can reset your brain waves. And this is a traditional concept. That's why the field of sound healing has so many people who are doing sound baths now. They're not musicians, but obviously it's pretty easy to play a bowl. Of course, depending on how hard you hit it and what you hit it with will change how it sounds. But again, as you listen to those pulsations, this is an aspect of rhythm in training. Now, one of the big things that I talk about, and which I began talking much more publicly about with my album Deep Alpha and Deep Theta, was the fact that entrainment is not just on the physical heartbeat and breathing, but also on our brain waves. With our heartbeat, it's beats per minute. Back in the 80s when disco and all the exercise classes with Jane Fonda had to get your heart rate up to a certain point, beats per minute were what counted. It didn't matter if the music was good or bad or just a fake drum beat going at 120 beats per minute. It affected your heartbeat. You have no choice. It's an autonomic nervous system reaction. You can't tell your heartbeat, do not follow that external rhythm, do not follow that drummer. You got no choice. But with music that puts you into a state of balance, you do have a choice. So that's something that I recommend. And being someone who, over the years, would often say, I don't have 20 minutes to meditate every day. When I first took my music to the Music Therapy Association, I said, I have this new music that could get you into a meditative state quicker than any classical music. And they said, we only listen to classical music. Well, I said, well, then, you got a problem because there's new music for today that was not available in Mozart's day. So I showed them my research, and some of them were very impressed, and some of them said, we only want to deal with the classical masters. And that's why they're there, and that's why we're into the field of sound healing, which is beyond just the notes. It's an experience, and it's an opportunity for you to tune in, to slow down, and allow your body to do what it knows how to do. Now, I mentioned a couple things earlier, and before I forget, there is another speaker that if you haven't seen, you will want to check out. I met Charles in 1976, Charles Muir. He instantly understood what I was doing and was with Mark Becker, the two first yoga masters who brought my music into the world of yoga, Mark Becker and Charles Muir. So Charles is doing an amazing workshop. He's doing amazing seminars. If you get a chance, check him out. And you and your partner, or even you as a signal, will be enhanced for the rest of your life, as I've been. Okay, we don't have any questions coming in, do we, Vicky? But so I'll just continue. This concept of, if you check on the web, you'll find a lot of sites that offer brainwave entrainment for free. And what they will sound like is and I call that stomach pump music. That does not help me get into a meditative state. What I've done with my music since 1980, when I was one of the first musicians to put it out there, one of the other great pioneers, of course, was Robert Monroe. Master Charles Cannon was another spiritual master who would use entrainment frequencies in the deep theta range to instantly get you as a listener into that state. Again, coming from New York, as I have in this lifetime, I don't want to wait 20 minutes to get relaxed. Not only do I not have 20 minutes, if I have 20 minutes, I want to spend that in the zone. I don't want to take 20 minutes getting there. And I have a feeling a lot of you are in the same situation. So that's why any one of my albums that are in the Inner Peace series will get you there virtually instantaneously. But as a musician, I don't do the bum, 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 bum. I include the sound technology of brainwave entrainment or brainwave balancing as part of the album itself, and mixed gently, mixed artistically, mixed musically, because I'm one of the only musicians in the field. Everyone else is a producer or hires an engineer to do it. I'm a musician. If I can't listen to it, I'm not interested. My brand new album is Ocean of Bliss, Volume 2. And this features another great musician named Kristen Hoffman, who does some extraordinary vocal toning. She's a master musician also. And when she does vocal toning, for me, I find it takes me much further than a lot of the new rookie sound healers. There are some great sound healers who do some great toning, and some that are singing out of tune. I won't say more about that, but when one of them was doing that during a massage and a healing for me, it was so out of tune, I had to get up and leave the room because it was just totally disorganizing my energy fields. And she didn't even know that anything was out of tune. That's a problem. Okay, so Ocean of Bliss, Volume 2 is brand new. The classics, because nowadays, if you're old school like me, you like to have CDs on hand for wherever you are. Many people don't have CDs playing anymore. And the cultural revolution that has occurred because of streaming music, however we got here through Napster ripping off musicians and then Apple putting out tracks, the reality is now you can listen to most any of my music. You can make your own playlist. You could share those playlists with others, and it creates an opportunity for music like mine to get further out into the world and do a lot more good. And that's been such a blessing for me, because the original vision, when I first heard the music and heard the message, one of the very few times in my life I've actually heard words in my head, is this is the music that I had been praying to hear. There would be a contemporary analog to the healing music of Pythagoras, the healing music in ancient Egypt, in ancient China, which were my cultural references, where they honored the healing power of music and the meditative power of music. So we brought that into modern day using modern sound things, because to listen to a boring tone would be counterproductive for somebody like me. But to listen to too much melody, I can't shut off that analytical part of my brain, because I was trained as a jazz musician with improvisation. And one of the things that we always tested is what was called the needle drop test. Within the first couple seconds of a song you never heard by an artist you didn't know, you had to identify who the artist was. So you'd have to identify the structure and the chords and this and that. All that is irrelevant in this world of sound healing. So wanted to point that out. And since I'm talking about local healers that you may want to know about, sound healers, on my albums Deep Theta 2.0 and Deep Alpha 2.0, I feature a South Florida master musician named Jorge Alfano. And if you ever get a chance to catch him doing concerts in South Florida, well worth your while. A master shakuhachi player, a master bonsai flute player. His bamboo flute work is some of the best in the world. And I've been honored to help produce albums that feature him. And he and I are coming out with our own album early next year called Deep Bamboo. So you'll want to look for that. Amazing musician. Okay, so all my music, all of my albums do not have brainwave entrainment added to it. But here's another important principle that you probably won't hear from most other people at this expo or anywhere else, is that one of the other things I learned early on, because I was invited to speak at quantum physics conferences. I was the first musician at the conferences, It's All in the mind can do anything. I was the featured musician at all the early Whole Life Expos and the first New Life Expo with Mark Becker, and all the only other one that's still going on in the San Francisco area and the Los Angeles area. You won't have seen a lot of workshops from other sound healers. Why? Because they can't do it. They haven't been doing it. And part of my karma was to bring this information out. I've written several